Today we're going to do quadratic equations. Right, so quadratic equations, you will later learn that we also have quadratic functions. So in quadratic equations, you have to have two answers for x. Because here you can see that x is squared. So I interpreted that if you have x squared, then you have two answers for x. If you have x cubed, you have three answers for x. So here you're going to have two answers for x. But there is two ways that I want you to attempt it. I want you to know both ways, and you decide which one works for you. So the first way, we're going to write x squared equals to 36. And then we're going to square root both of them. And then x is equal to plus minus 6. I want you to remember when you square root a number, it has two answers. Plus and minus 6. Then there's a second way that you might be familiar with. So we transpose the 36 to the left, becomes negative 36. So it's x squared minus 36 equal to 0. And then we factorize this because we have two perfect squares on the left, the difference between two perfect squares. And it gives me x and x. And square root 36 gives me 6 and 6. And then a plus and a minus 6. There we go. Right, so x plus 6 equal to 0, or x minus 6 equal to 0. Therefore, x is equal to negative 6, or x is equal to 6. And there we go, and that's how we do that. Let's go to the second one. You can try this one and post your answer in the comments. And now some of you might look at this and think, okay, the previous one was done like this. Let's square root both of them, and then we can see the answer is going to be... No, we can't do that. Can you see there's a coefficient in front of the variable, and it's not the perfect square? So we divide by 3 to get rid of the 3. So then x squared equals to 9. There we go. And so now we can square root both of them, and therefore x is equal to plus minus 3. And there we go. Okay, let's move on to the next one. You can pause the video for the next one, and then you can write your answer down. Okay, so let's try this one here. So we can move the 16 to the right, transpose it, and get negative 16. I can square root both of them, and then you will see x is equal to error. Right, so the reason why it's error, it's because we are square rooting a negative number. But why do you think it's so? Now we can see when you're going to draw a function, you will see your y-intercept is at 16 and it doesn't cut the x-axis. Okay, let's try the next one. Now some of you write x plus 5. Now remember there's a square there, so we write it out twice. We write x plus 5 equals to 9. And now we'll multiply out our brackets. X times x gives me x squared, and then x times 5 gives me plus 5x, and then 5 times x gives me plus 5x, and 5 times 5 gives me 25, equals to 9. Now we can add the like terms. They have the same variables and the same exponents, so it gives me 10x plus 25. We transpose the 9 to the left. That gives me minus 9 equals to 0. So now we simplify the values, the constant values. That gives me 16. Plus 16 equals to 0. And now we can factorize. This is a trinomial. So now I know it's going to be an x in the first bracket and an x in the second bracket. We're going to have 8 and 2. Because 8 plus 2 gives me 10, and 8 times 2 gives me 16. Now we can only write out x plus 8 when the right hand side is 0, not when there's a value there. Okay, right, x plus 2 equal to 0. So therefore x is equal to 8, negative 8, or x is equal to negative 2. So please take note of that. What I mentioned earlier must be equal to 0. So we write down the standard formula, or rather standard form. It looks like this: ax squared plus bx plus c. Right, so we write it in this way so that we can basically factorize it like that. Okay, so let's look at the equation given to us, and we can see that it is in standard form indeed. Right. So we factorize a trinomial, and so it's going to be x and x, and then we're going to use two factors of 14, which is 7. I'm going to look at 7 and 2. We need to add these two values, or simplify these two values to get negative 5. So it's going to be negative 7 then, and plus 2. There we go. And so we can only write the brackets equal to 0 if there's a 0 on the right hand side. No other value, okay? You will see later. So it's x equal to 7, or x is equal to negative 2. We transpose the values over. There we go. Now, when we look at this one, is it in standard form? What do you think? So remember, the standard form has to be written like this: ax squared plus bx plus c. Is it in standard form? What do you think? No, it's not. Okay, so now let's try to write it in standard form. Okay, plus 2x squared minus 0. So we transpose the 3 to the left. It gives me negative 3. And so now let's rearrange it. 2x squared plus 5x. Now remember, the 5 is positive, so that's why we have plus 5x minus 3 equals to 0. So now we have the standard form. Okay, so now we can factorize. Now this is the type of factorization that we've done earlier, where the coefficient of the x squared is higher than 1. Okay, so we're going to use 1x and 2x, and then we're going to have 1 and 3. And we can see if we multiply 1x and 3x, it gives me 3x. And then I multiply 2x and 1, it gives me 2x. Now it gives me the 5x, but if I multiply 1 and 3, it doesn't give me negative 3. And so now therefore I have to actually look at the same values, because they are prime numbers, both prime numbers. Now I need to actually move things around. So remember, if I multiply these two, it doesn't give me negative 3. So let's try and use a different combination. Let's use 1x and 3x, and 2x, sorry, and then 3 on top and 1 at the bottom. So I just swap the numbers around. So now 1 times 1 gives me 1x, and 2 times 3 gives me 6x. And so now if I want to get 5, it must be 6 minus 1. That gives me 5x. Now therefore, if I multiply 3 and negative 1, it does actually result in negative 3. So now I know that these are my factors in this order. So the top two numbers, x and x and 3, they will be written together in one bracket. So it will be x plus 3 in the first bracket, and then the bottom two numbers, 2x minus 1 at the next bracket. Right. So now we remember 0 is on the right hand side. Now we can write the bracket equal to 0. So it will be 2x minus 1 equal to 0. Therefore x is equal to negative 3, or 2x is equal to positive 1. So you take the 1 over, it becomes a positive 1. And therefore x is equal to a half. And there we go. There's my two answers. Right. Let's go on to the next one. So here, if I transpose the 4 to the left, it will be in a form of standard form, because we're going to miss a constant value. Right. So let's move it over first. So it's 2x squared minus 4x equals to 0. Right. Now, I can use it, treat it as a trinomial, but it's going to be quite difficult for you to understand. So my best bet is to go in, what type of factorization I can use is common factor. So we take out 2x, right? And so let's divide 2x squared by 2x, and we see that we get x. So that's why I wrote down the x there. And I'm going to take negative 4x over 2x equals to negative 2. So it's x squared minus 2 equal to 0. So now we have two brackets equal to 0. So now I can say 2x equals to 0, or x minus 2 equals to 0. So now we divide by 2 both sides. X is therefore equal to 0, or x is equal to 2. And there we go. There's my two answers. Now this one, I could use a common factor. So I'm teaching you all the different types of quadratic functions. And now we have this here. And immediately we think 3x minus 1 equals to 10. And x plus 2 equals to 10. We're done. No, you are not. You can't do that, people. Remember, on the right hand side, I said there must be a 0 for you to put the brackets equal to 0. And so you need to take note of this and not just rush into things. There is reasons why we do certain things. So take note, be careful, don't make your own frullatis. Okay, so we multiply the brackets. So it'll be x 3x squared, and then with 3x times 2, it gives me 6x. And negative 1 times x is negative 1x. And negative 1 times 2 gives me negative 2 equals to 10. There we go. Now we simplify our middle terms. That gives me 5x minus 10. The 2 minus 10, we took the 10 over to the left. So that gives me 3x squared plus 5x minus 12. Whoa. And now we can factorize it, right? Just a trinomial with the x value, coefficient of x squared is higher than 1. And now let's do it. Okay, we write down 1x and 3x. And we write the factors of 12. I'll choose maybe 3 and 4. So I write 3 or 4 and 3. And then let me use another page just so that we can have more than one. Okay, so 1x and 3x. And then maybe 3 and 4, and just to see if these two pairs will work out. Sometimes it works out at first, and other times it doesn't. That 1x times 4 is 4x, and 3x times 3 is 9x. Right. 3 times 4 is 12x, and then 1x times 3 is 3x. Right. So we have that, and so now let's simplify. If I add, it gives me 15. If I subtract, it gives me 9. So it won't give me 5x squared. So the bottom part will give me 5x. Because 9 minus 4 gives me 5x. Right. So the 4 must be negative to give me the 4x. So I'm going to write the two pairs of factors on top in the first bracket. X plus 3. And then 3x minus 4 in the second bracket. Because this is generally the part where kids get confused. Or learners get confused as to which one do you write where. And if I multiply the last two terms, 3 and negative 4, it gives me negative 12. And therefore, I am correct. And yeah, so that's why you write your pairs down in different brackets, people. Okay, so x plus 3 equals to 0. And 3x minus 4 equals to 0. That gives me negative 3. Or 3x equals to 4. Are we done? Nope. We divide by 3. X is equal to 4 over 3. And there we go. And so this is how you do all the different types